Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at a pretty funky Thursday night slate here tonight. A couple small slate here as one of those games has already been postponed, the Chicago Bulls and Toronto Raptors, as the Bulls are dealing with massive COVID protocol injury, well, people out because of that. But we'll take a look in this one at the Rockets and the Knicks, a couple of teams in opposite directions in their last 9 games or so, completely spinning. But the Knicks are now 11th in the Eastern Conference, as are the Rockets, who have moved up to 11th and just one game out of that last play-in spot. We'll take a look at that one. Nate's got his article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and player props. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, as we've got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video we love to bring you each and every weekday. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, we're looking at the Knicks, who are -5 at the Rockets. Rockets playing on a back-to-back here. Some key injuries to watch. Eric Gordon sat last night. So did Christian Wood. We'll see if they return. We know KPJ and Jalen Green are out. The total here is dropping a little bit because of the Rockets' anemic offense in Cleveland last night, correctly called by us. It's down to 213 after opening around 216. And looking at the other 3 games, we got Pistons +10 at Pacers. The Sixers are +1.5 at the shorthanded Nets. That total has fluctuated a lot from 218 to 213 and back up. And we talk about that in a separate episode here tonight. And then the Wizards +8.5 at the Suns as they look to avoid a 4th straight loss. So the Knicks, I think, are expected to bounce back from their 0-4 losing streak. Just some putrid numbers in that span, -14 net rating. Tough competition, though, at Toronto, at Indy, losing to Milwaukee, and then losing to the Warriors on a high-profile night there at MSG. I mean, the numbers have not been good against that competition. That's certainly an understatement. But I think we still expect them, especially if Gordon and Wood are out, to get back on track here against a Rockets team they've beaten 4 times in a row by an average of 14 points per game. Houston has been tanking as well since their surprise win streak there. They're 1-3 with some very poor numbers on both ends of the floor, about the same negative net rating as the Knicks. And they tend, their offensive rating is still up in that span, but their defensive rating is abysmal, 123.4 over their last 4 games. And the Knicks have mostly handled business when they're supposed to. They're 4-1 straight up on the road, 3-2 against the spread in that situation. Surprisingly much better on the road in terms of their defensive rating drops 3 points per 100 possession and offensive rating rises 4. And it's probably because there's a lot less 3-point attempts, a lot less higher percentage of points scored off the 3. Go to the basket, as your old rec league coach told you, Josh, because this Rockets team is 5th in 3-point defense, actually, and that's about the one thing that they excel at with a lot of speed on the wing. So I think the Knicks will get back to basics tonight, be able to pound it and come away with the win here. And you're certainly getting a lot of value if you bet it now, and Christian Wood happens to sit because he's essential to what the Rockets do on both ends.
Yeah, and that's really going to be what it comes down to tonight, which is why it's such a weird slate and a little bit tough. And things are getting a little bit tough with health and protocol safety, people, going into those COVID protocols and a few injuries here and there. I feel like people started to get healthier after a bevy of injuries at the beginning of the season. And now we're kind of back to where we were, which makes things a little bit difficult because in this one, just because, I would like to eye that total. All the numbers in this one point to, Houston at home, New York on the road, over, right? And the Knicks have been the worst, one of, if not the worst defensive team. They've got the 2nd worst defensive rating in the league in the last 9 games since, Kemba sat about 10 games ago. And we keep going back to that stat because that was a big change in their rotation. And it's sort of, they're a different look team in the last 9 than they were previous 9. And it's been bad. It's been really bad on defense, especially. And that's why I really wanted to eye this total. You see the Knicks score more on the road, give up more on the road. And they play actually at a little bit slower pace on the road, which is weird. They're just way more efficient. And that adds to your point of they're taking better shots and they're not just pulling 3 after 3 like they seem to do in New York when they're at home at MSG. So, that leads me to think, once again, feeling a little bit better about this one, especially when you watch a total drop like it did. That's where I start looking at teases again and consider that I don't think the Rockets are going to lose by more than 10 points, to be honest. I don't think the Knicks are in the shape right now to blow out anybody, to be honest. And I think, the points and the Rockets, losing by less than 10 points makes me feel pretty good at that point. If I can get this spread up a bit, to about 9.5, 10, depending where you see it, and then get that total back up to about 220 and go over that, drop that total down to about 212 and go over that. I would feel a lot better about that. It's just really the Knicks' putrid offense as of late that has me feeling weird. It comes down to whether or not they're, it sounds silly, but this team is about making shots, and that's really it. Defenses have sort of figured out Julius Randle's, playmaking ability as well, and they're not just going to sort of sag off every other person when he starts driving to the lane, especially if they get him going right, where he is a lot worse versus his lefty that he prefers to go to. So look, I mean, the numbers kind of go both ways and say slight over, which is why I think if you can tease this down a bit, you feel pretty good about it. And I know there's not much there aren't many player props out there right now. But look, if Eric Gordon's going to be the focal point of the offense, anything around 20 points for him, and I would also consider the over there as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we're teasing, I would go the other direction. I expect the Knicks to be able to win. If you get this spread down to 1 point, feel pretty good about it. And I would just look at some ways to juke the money line at FanDuel. Derrick Rose, 15 points in a win at plus 122. I think if this is a game where they attack the basket and with success, that's going to be a Derrick Rose game where he at least scores that amount. I don't think that the Rockets are stopping anybody right now. I think their 7-game win streak was a bit of a fluke, and we're starting to see who they really are due to some injuries here. And who they are is just a team that loves to play shootouts, especially at home. The over is hit in 5 of their last 7 home games. The over is hit in their last 6 games on a back-to-back. And for the Knicks, the over is hit in 4 of their last 5 against teams with losing records. You'd love to see the total drop a little bit here. No RJ Barrett is going to hurt their offense a little, but I think maybe even hurt their defense more. If Eric Gordon and Christian Wood are playing, I do trust the Rockets to get over 100 points here. And to your point, if you tease it either direction and get it down to 209 as it stands right now, feel pretty good about that over, just given the pace that the Rockets like to play out at home. And the fact that the Knicks just really need to find a spark somehow. And you look at their last win, they dropped 121 in San Antonio, a team that also likes to play with pace at home. So it's not like they can't play that style, and it's not like it's not conducive to their success. So maybe we see them open it up a little bit more because what they have been doing has not been working.
No, that's fair. And you do make some good points about, look, Houston was on that sort of 10-game upswing where they were, 8-2. But to your point, especially with players coming out, look, they had a huge comeback win where Eric Gordon dropped 30 and they beat the Hawks. And that was really impressive. And that's still on people's minds to a degree. But that does seem a lot like playing above your pay grade with all of your young stars and your young guns out, which they were in that game, and not much. And just sort of the vets come in and being like, OK, let's prove what we got here. The Daniel Tices and the Daniel Houses and Eric Gordons of the world were playing well that game. I don't think that's what the level that they continue to play at to that point. If you wanted to get a little bit more juice on your money, to your point, the parlay there with the Knicks win is a pretty good bet as well to get a bit more juice there. So make sure you check out what is up on thelines.com. We'll be making sure to check to keep tabs on who will be playing tonight. You want to make sure you see if Christian Wood's playing tonight. Eric Gordon is returning, but that Christian Wood, whether or not he plays tonight, will have a huge impact on that total and on what the Rockets are able to do, obviously, as well, and if they're able to keep this one close. So we will be checking that one out. That is all the time we have for today. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. You can check out the other couple videos that we have up for you today. Until we see you next, happy betting.